Here, this is a Sanskrit class and Alankara Shastra we are going to discuss as on today. The first evidence of a definite, if somewhat crude, activity in the direction of poetics is traceable in the Nigantu and Niruktam of Yaska. From the investigation of peculiarities of the general form of language, which began early attention was apparently directed to the analysis of the poetic forms of speech. But the question was still regarded entirely from the linguistic point of view. The term Alankara does not occur in the technical sense in the Nirukta, but Yaska uses the word Alankarishno in the general sense of one in the habit of adorning, which Panini, the ancient grammarian and the author of Ashtadhyayi, explained in 136, and which is apparently the meaning of the words occurring in the Shatapatha Brahmanam and in the Chandogya Upanishad. But in the Nigantu, a list is given of particles of comparison relating to the Vedic Upama, comprising 12 varieties which are illustrated in the Nirukta, and 6 of these, those indicated by the particles Iva, Yata, Na, Chit, No, and A, are discussed in connection with Yaska's treatment of Upamarte Nipataha, or particles indicative of comparison and partly included in what he designated as Karmopama. In 15, then Yaska mentions Bhutopama, in which the Upamit becomes the Upaman in character, and Rupopama, where the Upamit resembles the Upaman in point of form. The fourth variety occurs where the particle Yada is used. Then comes Siddhopama, in which the standard of comparison is well established and known to surpass every other object in a particular quality or act, and is characterized by the suffix vat. The last variety is Luptopama, or suppressed simile, also called Arthopama, equivalent to the Rupaka of later theorist, which is illustrated in 18, where the example is given of the popular applications of the terms Simha and Vyagra in a laudatory and Shwa and Kak in the derogatory sense. The term Upamana itself is used by Yashka, but only to denote these particles of comparison. By the time of Panini, this conception of Upama seems to have been tacitly recognized, and we find him using in this connection the rhetorical terms Upaman, Upamit, and Samanya, as well as general expressions like Upama, used in the sense of rhetoricians, alankarika, upaman, upabya, upamarte, and sadrusha. It is noteworthy that in nearly 50 sutras distributed all over his work, Panini incidentally discussed from the grammarian's point of view the influence of the conceptions of comparison of the language in the varied dominion of affixes, including the case and the feminine suffixes, kruta, taditta, and samasanta terminations. In the making of the compounds and in accent, the same influence is also traceable in the idea of atidesha, a term which is not used by Panini himself but which is made clear by his commentators and which may be translated as extended application by analogy or similarity. In the Mahabhasya of 155, Patanjali has defined and illustrated Panini's use of the term upaman. It seems that poetics as a technical discipline must have been of comparatively late origin and probably began to develop in the first few centuries of the Christian era. With the flourishing of Sanskrit learning and literature in the 4th and the 5th centuries, under the Gupta emperors, its development probably proceeded with a pace. Bohler epigraphical researches have confirmed the indication first given by Lesson regarding the development of Sanskrit Kavya style in this period, and it may be taken as the prelude to the rhetorical activity which bore rich fruits in the 8th and 9th century in systematic investigations of poetic principles. His examinations of the early inscription not only proves the existence of the body of highly elaborate prose and metrical writings in the Kavya style during the first 5 centuries AD, but it also establishes presumptions that most of these Prashasti writers were acquainted with the rules of Indian poetics. Bohler attempts to show that the manner in which these writers conform to the rules of Alankara crystallized in the oldest available manuals like those of Bamaha and Dandin would go to indicate the existence of an Alankara Shastra or some theory of poetic art. This conclusion is to some extent supported by a passage in the Garner inscription itself, which contains a reference to prose and verse embellished with poetic figures and rendered attractive by poetic conventions and expressions, which are clear, light, pleasing, varied, and charming. Sputa, Lagu, Madhura Chitra Kanta, Shabda, Samayo, Dara, Lankruta, Gadyapadya. The Sputa, Madhura, Kanta and Chitra qualities may respond Prasada. Prasada, Madhurya, Kanti and other excellence discussed by Dandin. The inscription itself is written in prose having long compounds and contain alliteration, repetition of sounds and other tricks in the approved style. From this period of time, we get more or less definite indications of the existence of declines of poetics in the Kavya literature itself. In the two earlier epics, no doubt, some of the more general terms of Alankara like Upama, Kavya, Nataka, Katha and Akyayika are used. But in the Buddha Charita of Aswagosha, as Cowell, an European Sanskrit scholar, notes, we have the use of common poetic figures like Upama, Utpreksha, and Rupakam, as well as of elaborate ones like Yatasankhya and Aprastuta Prashamsa in an ingenious way, which presumably exhibits an acquaintance with the teaching of poetics. The works of Kalidasa, which appear with all the polish and the perfection imparted to them by a trained and careful artist to the later theorist, they supply an inexhaustible storehouse of quotations for the illustration of different poetic figures, expressions, and principles. This conscious employment of varied and elaborate poetic figures and general observance of poetic rules in these early kavya poets are not without their significance, and we may reasonably presume from them a general diffusion of the knowledge of poetics in this age. The same tendency towards artificial or factitious composition is shown also in the prose romance of Subandhu and Bana. Subandhu prides himself on his skill in the use of Slesha in every letter of his composition, and his Vasavadatta, a prose romance, justifies this boast. Pratyakshara Shlesha Maya Prapanchivi Vinyasavaida Gadyaya Nidim Prabandham Saraswati Datta Varaprasadashchakre Subandhu Sujanaika Bandhu. In the work itself, Subandhu speaks of poetic compositions adored with poetic figures like Shlesha, divided into Uchvasa, Satkavi, Kavya, Rachana, Mivalankara, Prasaditaha, Madirgochasara, Chanakula, Sushlesha, Vakannagata, Napatu, Satkavya, Virachanam, Iva, Utpreksha, Kshepau, Kavyalankareshu, that is Bahamaha 25 to 26, and displaying skills in the employment of Vaktra, that is meter. He specifies also two important poetic figures, Utpreksha and Akshepa. Equally definite is Bana's reference to the rhetoric in his mention in one of the introductory verses of his Kadambari of the poetic figures Upama, Jati, Swabhavokti, Deepakam, and Shlesha, as well as of poetic rasa and shaya. Bana also refers to verbal puzzlers such as Aksharachyutu, Bindumati, Guda Chaturtha Pada, and Prahelika, and he seems to be aware of Alankarika distinction between Katha and Akyayika. The earliest known writers on poetics who lived somewhat later themselves refer to still earlier authorities. Thus, Bamaha speaks of Medavin and others, whom he cites and whose work he avidly utilizes. Similarly, Dandin refers to his earlier writings, and one of his commentators mentions in this connection two theorists before Dandin, Kashyapa and Vararusi, who are otherwise unknown to us as writer on Alankara. As a cognate branch of study, however, which probably supplied poetics with a model and the poetic theory with the important consent of rasa dramaturgy, Natya Shastra appears to have established itself a little earlier. Comparatively, early texts with Brahmanical and Buddhistic speak of some kind of dramatic representation, and we have a very early reference in Panini to Kushaswa and Shilalin as authors of Natasutra. The early existence of treatise on the dramatic art is also evidenced by the fact that all the early authors on poetics, Bamaha, Dandin, and Vamana, omit a discussion of this subject and refer their readers for information to such specialized work. The older specimens of these are perhaps lost, but Bharata's Natya Shastra, which is cited as the oldest known and most authoritative work, can be assigned to the period 3rd century BC to 3rd century AD. Bharata himself devoted a whole chapter to the treatment of poetic gunas and the alankaras as decorative devices of dramatic speech. It seems therefore that the study of alankara was older than Bharata. Indeed, the different schools of opinion represented by the alankara, riti, and dhvani theories probably flourished some centuries before their views became crystallized in the present work of Bamaha, Dandin, and Dvanikara. Abhinav Gupta, respectively, none of whom can be taken as the absolute founder of the system he represents. We cannot therefore start with the works of these writers as the absolute beginning of the science, although with them we enter upon the historic and most creative stage of its existence. Taking this fact into consideration, we may assume that the Alankara Shastra started as a separate technical discipline from about the commencement of the Christian era. The probably flourished in relatively developed form in the 5th and the 6th century AD. The course of this development is unfortunately hidden from us until it emerges in a more or less self-conscious form in some chapters of Bharata's Natya Shastra and in the Kavyalankara of Bahamaha. Many of the Indian Sanskrit scholars are of the opinion that Sanskrit poetics have their beginning in the Vedic literature itself long before the beginning of the Christian era. SKD generally follows the view of the Western scholars who are inclined to push down anything Indian to the period after the beginning of the Christian era. From the above information, as I have cited you, we can conclude that there have been a number of rhetoricians who contributed independent work, and some of them wrote works as commentaries and on earlier works or based on the earlier works like Appaya Dikshita, the author of Kuvalayananda. There are some of the rhetoricians like Jagannatha who wrote Chitra Mimamsa Kandanam, refuting the propositions of Appaya Dikshita who wrote Chitra Mimamsa. In the following pages, which is there in front of you, you can just look into those information as for a reference, whatever I might have told you, but still you can find in the case of those pages which could help you in reading this process, whatever I had indicated you there. Now let us see Appaya Dikshita and his work. Appaya Dikshita himself furnishes us with a clue of his date. He tells us at the end of Kuvalayananda that it was composed at the instance of South Indian prince named Venkata, referred to by Appaya, was Venkata I of Penugonda, whose inscription ranged from Staka era. On the other hand, in the colophon of his Shivarka Manidipaka, Appaya mentions as his patron of the prince Chinnabomma, son of Chinnavira and the father of Lingamanayaka. The inscription of this chief of Vellore, presently Vellore, which we are calling in Tamil Nadu. So, in the last verse of Kuvalayananda, reference is made Pradyotana Bhatta's commentary Sharadagamaha on the Chandraloka of Jayadeva, which is dated 1583 AD. The extreme limits, therefore, of Appaya's literary work are mostly found in the year from 1549 to 1613. We may thus assign him to the third and the fourth quarters of the 16th century, and as he was alive in the time of Venkata I, he may have lived into the beginning of the 17th century. This date is confirmed by the fact that we find Appaya cited by Kamalakara Bhatta in the first quarter of the 17th century and attacked by the Jagannatha about the same time. We find the author himself using the form of Appa or Appya of his name in the Kolayananda, but it is variously spelt as Appaya and Appaya. He was a traditional South Indian Brahmin and was a versatile and prolific writer, and traditionally ascribed to him more than 100 works. Neelakanta Dikshita in his Neelakanta Vijaya, a Champu Kavya, Appaya was the fifth son of Rangaraja and had a brother called Appya or Achan. Appaya is notable in Sanskrit poetics for his three works, namely the Kolayananda, the Chitramimamsa, and the Vritivartika. Of these, the last seems to have been his earliest work, after which comes Chitramimamsa, which is referred to in his Kolayananda, where in the case of Kolayananda is directly based on the Jayadeva's Chandraloka. Up to the section of this figure of speech, Hetu, to the 100 Alankaras of Jayadeva, Appaya, however, adds 15, and this perhaps constitute the largest number of such figures mentioned in any Alankara work, and form the climax in the process of multiplying the poetic figures with endless, minute differentiation. The Chitramimamsa is an independent work, but it was probably left incomplete. Appaya's third work, the Vritti Vartika, which is a short dissension after a word called Kavyasarini, and on the three functions of the words, and its sense as Avidya, Lakshana, and Vyanjana. As it stands, for it consists only of two chapters on the two functions, Avidya and Lakshana, and the third chapter, which should deal with the third function, Vyanjana, is missing. Appayas appear to have written another work called as Lakshana Ratnavali on the Lakshana of Rupaka. At present, the text of Kolayananda is followed with a commentary called as Budaranjani, written by Vengalasuri and published from the Madras in 1863. This is a commentary on Arthalankara section in the incorporated by the Kolayananda. Now let us see here Chandraloka of Jayadeva. Jayadeva, the author of Chandraloka, described himself as the son of Mahadeva and Sumitra in the concluding stanza, as mentioned here, of each of 10 Mayukhas of Chandraloka. The following is the concluding stanza of the first Mayuka, which, with slight modification, is repeated at the end of every Mayuka. Mahadeva Satra Pramukha महाविद्यैक चतुरः सुमित्रा तद्भक्ति प्रणिहिता मतिर्यस्य पितरौ अनेनास वाद्य सुकविजयदेवेन रचिते चिरं चंद्रलोके सुकयतु मयूकः सुमनसः. It is also definitely known that he is the same as the author of Prasannargavaha, a Rupaka from the following two verses pronounced by the Sutrahara at the prelude to that play. Since the description of his parentage is identical in both the works, Vilaso Yadvacha समर सनिश्च अंदर माधुरः कुरक्षी बिंबादरः मधुर भावं गमयति कवीन्द्रः कौंडिन्यः स तव जयदेव श्रावाव्यः रयसीदादतिः न किमिह महादेवतनायः लक्षमनस्येव यस्यास्यः सुमित्रा कुक्षिता जन्मनः. That is, this is taken from here. Ramachandra Pradambojo Brahmadbu, so that he won the well-merited appellation of Piyushavarsha will be clear from the second sloka of the first Mayuka of Chandraloka. Ham ho Chinmaya Chitta Chandramanayah संवर्धय दवम रसान रे रे स्वै ऋणी निर्विचार कविते मास्मत् प्रकाशी भाव उल्लासाय विचार विचिनी चयालंकार वारम निदे चंद्र लोकमयम स्वयं वितनेतु Piyusha Varsha Kruti. It is to be noted that he is different from Jayadeva, the author of Gita Govinda, a devotional lyric who describes himself as the son of Bojadeva and Ramadevi. That's Gita Govindam 12. Jayadeva, the author can be assigned to a period either in the 12th or 13th century AD. From the evidences found in the Chandraloka 1-8 and from the citing a sloka from the Jayadevas Prasannargavaha as an example of Ardhantara Sankramita Dhvani by Vishwanatha, a rhetorian of 14th century AD. Jayadeva Chandraloka consists of 10 Mayukas. He aptly named the chapters of his work as Mayuhas, in keeping with the title Chandraloka, moonlight. Mayuka means a ray of light. So, the fifth Mayuka, Panchama Mayuka of Alankara Prakaranam, is the most popular of 10 Mayukas comprising of Chandraloka. In the first Mayuka, the author deals with words, sentences, their subdivisions, and the poetry in general. In the second Mayuka, doshas or literary defects have been disposed of, and the third Mayuka treats of lakshanas, and the fourth of gunas and or literary merits. In the fifth Mayuka, the author deals with alankaras or figure of speech. The sixth Mayuka deals with rasa, and the seventh and eighth with the dhvani, the ninth with the lakshana, and the connotation of the 10th Mayuka with Abhidha or the denotion. Of these 10 Mayukas or chapters of Chandraloka, the 5th Mayuka is the most popular. It has been commented upon by many later rhetoricians, including the great Appaya Dikshita. Appaya Dikshita's Kuvalayananda is based on the Alankara Prakarana or the Panchama Mayuka or Chandraloka. So, We are going to discuss about the next part in our next class.